Hi, I'm Kiwi,
And I'm Jarad.
and we are the two gentlemen coming to you a little bit older. Jarad, how are you?
I feel lot more older, actually. It's been a while, but yeah, not too bad, not too bad. It's been a while, like I said. So I've sort of been, whilst we don't get to chat, I sort of ponder things and think about things and sort of, you know, don't really know what to do with my thoughts while we can't speak. So I've got a lot of things bouncing around in this big noggin of mine, but one of them actually, I don't know. I just had this weird thought. Like I was putting my car window down the other day with my with my button power windows, and I just realized our kids will never actually know how to manually put a car window down. Like I don't think there's a car out there now that actually has manual window on. And anyway, that filled my mind for about 30 seconds. But yeah, it's a thought that I just popped in my head, and yeah, there's a few others that I probably won't bore you with, but I will bring up this one actually. I've noticed there's been a rug shop really close. Like I drive around past this rug shop. It's been closing down for 4 or 5 years, and it's a common denominator. These rug shops are always closing down. I don't know why you would get into business selling rugs. Like every shop closes down. I don't get it. Anyway,
I think they're
that's
afraid of commitment. I think that's it.
you reckon that's it? Because they don't
Yeah,
want to be a full carpet, lodge the carpet down into the floors. It's just about having a rug rolled out.
exactly.
Maybe,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's the rug culture.
Maybe it's the signs they buy them already. Rug shop closing down. But anyway, it's these like particular areas that have these rug shops, and I don't know what's going on. But anyway, that's my interesting life. I don't think about much stuff that would sort of excite a lot of people, but yeah, keeps me going. But how about yourself, mate? How you been?
Well, I'm a little bit older. That's why I said it earlier because I just had my birthday on the weekend.
Happy
So yes,
birthday.
old man now. Thank you. 41. So into our fifth decade. Let's see if we can make the most of this one.
We've
But
had
just going
four
back
more.
to your winding the window down, when you'd pull up next to a car and you'd signal to someone to wind their window down and you'd do the crank action. That
How
action
you
won't
doing?
exist in a few years. People won't know what you're talking about.
You literally just got to put your finger down. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I thought that was part of my thought process as well. Yeah, I've got to say, but yeah, how do you do that now? You
Yeah.
can't.
You can't communicate it.
No.
Yeah. But
But
yeah, ask how I was. Yeah, look, I've actually had a bit of a rough trot. I caught a cold. I tested negative to COVID, which is the main thing. But
mm,
yeah, I had a really, really rough day at work, which happened to be on my birthday. The whole weekend was really rough. I'm not allowed to go into any details just because of confidentiality reasons.
of
But it
course.
it just got me thinking about just the rough day at the office. It happens to everybody. Whether you're a professional athlete and you've just played the worst game of your life, you've dropped the ball in front of an audience, a television audience of millions, or you've missed that winning shot at Wimbledon. It took me weeks to recover from Federer's loss in the 2019 final. Gosh, after having double match point. So I can only imagine how hard it is for some people. But yeah, look, I had a really, really rough weekend, and yeah, just coming home, I was like, oh, I really, really need to just get home and just fall down on the couch and have a cup of tea.
Yeah,
Fortunately, my kids were home and Erica was home, and so I got plenty of love and attention. But I can imagine how different people handle it differently. Now, I know we've talked about self care before, but we haven't talked specifically about the rough day at the office.
yeah.
Have you ever experienced the same sort of thing, Jarad?
Oh, look, I can definitely relate to just wanting to get home. Yeah, I've had some rough days, and for me, there was things like like markers on my drive home. Like as soon as I crossed that bridge, for example, I was in my suburb. I just kind of had this feeling of this relaxing feeling come over me a little bit, knowing that I was only sort of a couple minutes from home. I was in my suburb. I could go to the shops. I could go and grab a coffee. I could just, and then to actually, open the door and I think, see your family or prepare to go pick up the kids from school or whatever it might be, your
Yep.
normal thing. That kind of brought over a sensation of, peace, I guess, that you were away from that situation.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's your home is your sanctuary, I guess. And that kind of brings that in. But I mean, I'm sure people have worse situations. I mean, like for you and for me and for anybody else out there, like you were talking about, somebody losing the Wimbledon final or dropping the ball. But what about somebody that's just, printed off 1,000 copies instead of 100 and just, wasted all that paper and all that ink and got their, got told off by their boss. And, it's quite a small thing in life, the garbage truck didn't work or something, the arm didn't work. So they had to drive back to the thing and then they had to go back and, someone's bin didn't get emptied and it took an extra 5 hours and they carried on and made your day bad because of something that occurred that, was quite small in reality. But you carry that burden and potentially can carry that burden into your sanctuary.
That's a really good point. I just want to unpack a few things that you said there. I liked what you said about crossing that bridge. It was like this, a physical marker that could tell you, okay, the transition's happening now. I'm leaving that environment. I'm heading into somewhere else. You also said that home is a sanctuary. Unfortunately, that isn't the case for everybody. You and I are so lucky to have great families to come home to. And a home to come home to. A lot of people, they might be couch surfing or whatever and, living in a pretty precarious situation. So I definitely want to give a shout out to those people who, might not have that safe place to go to afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I can only imagine what, some people have been through, like not too long ago, a garbage truck caught on fire. The load caught on fire. I think it was out near where you live. And they just, what they have to do is they have to dump exactly wherever they are, just dump their load and then move the truck because, you can't have a truck on fire. So you've got all this flaming garbage, who knows what's in it, in the middle of suburbia, just on fire. Imagine that day at work for that person.
That's right. Yeah. And it would have been, for that day, like imagine living there and having a garbage truck just drop tons and tons of rubbish, like I said, flaming, burning rubbish that you don't know what is in it. But it was a necessity for that person to do that. But they would have felt like garbage, no pun intended, but they would have felt like, the worst person in the world to do that. But they had to, it's part of their procedures and, but that's right. And people go through situations at work, whether it be your day-to-day, the people that work some really tough jobs, and I recognize that. There's people that unfortunately work in a toxic environment and they have to do that every day.
All too common.
Yeah, it's very common. I mean, you don't pick your work colleagues or your management or whatever. You've got to work with what you got, and sometimes those lines are crossed where people aren't polite's the wrong word, but aren't what I'm trying to say.
They're not supportive.
Not supportive, and they might. There's two parties or three parties or whatever involved. They're all having rough days, and it just turns into a fight.
Yeah.
So bringing that stuff, it's dangerous. Bringing that stuff to the place where you rest and where you have your family is hard because you're trying to be happy and be upbeat and but they also like you said, we're very lucky, and I recognize that. We're very lucky to come home to a situation where the people that are in this house, or like I said, this physical house or this physical space, cheers us up just without even no one trying. It just happens. And that's in me. That's psychological. Like I come up my steps at home and I feel good.
Yeah.
But how do you not bring it home?
That's a huge question, Jared. And it's so important because when you do, I mean, the world, turns based on our reactions to things and our moods. And, you cut someone off in traffic who's had a bad day at work. Well, maybe you're going to set them off in a way that you wouldn't have if they had the best day at work ever.
Yeah.
And, road rage incident flares up and, who knows where that's going to lead. So, yeah, how do you, I guess, compartmentalize these things that happen in your life and not take them into the outside world, whether it's home or, to school or, into your parenting? It is really difficult.
I think it's just important to, and again, I think it's probably repeating ourselves from previous episodes, but I think it's important to, as soon as you get in your car, like, so that road rage comment you just made there, it sort of prompted my thought. As soon as you get in your car, you got to understand that you're not in this bubble of protection that, you can do anything you want. You might seem like it. People get in behind the steering wheel and sing and, think that nobody's seeing them, but they actually are, or, they get on their phone and they're yelling and screaming or whatever they might be doing. But, hands free, of course. But you got to, I guess you got to think about like that person that you're beeping your horn at because you've had a rough day might have had just the same sort of rough day, or you've just kind of ruined their day because just because you've, overprinted 100 copies on the copy machine, or because you got the lunch order wrong, and I'm trivializing some things, but, like, there's bigger things in the world to sort of, worry about, or not even worry about, just to enjoy and just to experience. So don't go out as soon as you get in your car. Don't get out and think that everyone's against you.
Yeah.
And then as you continue your journey home, whether it be like by car, train, or whatever, then don't walk in your house that your family's against you, because they weren't there and they didn't cause the, whatever went wrong. They didn't make that, the manager get angry at you. They didn't cause that customer to lose the plot. So I guess it's just realizing that you've got to switch from, once you get, there's all these switches. You got to, like I said, compartment. I can't even say it.
Compartmentalize. Yeah,
that's the one. Thank you. Everything, because and look, but then that's I'm a little concerned that people might think that that's then like, shutting off what's happening and bottling up or whatever you want to call it. There's another process for that. But the process for not bottling up isn't going in your car and carrying on like a pork chop and then going home and being a grumpy so-and-so.
Yeah.
You got to understand that there's different processes. If you are having it rough at work, you've got to go through the process and not carry on.
Yeah, I think the use of the word process is perfect, Jared. And you need to understand your personal process. I think that's a different thing. Now, someone might, in my position where I work, probably would have just gone down to the beach, gone for a surf, and that gets all your stress out, basically. It's a great way to do it. Meditation's another way, but you've got to work out what works for you.
Yeah.
For me, like you said, you've got to, get that out of your system somehow. And to me, to untie that knot that happens, from any tension, you've got to talk about it and acknowledge it and acknowledge that something's happened. A friend of mine, one of my colleagues, who read the notes about what happened at work, he rang me in the afternoon and said, I just want to check you're okay. And that was really lovely. I'm very lucky I work in a really supportive workplace. And that meant a lot to me, but it's also important to acknowledge that even though you're, a man, these things do affect you. You can't just brush things off so easily. You still, even if you don't consider it real life, like for example, in the tennis situation, nothing happened, a yellow fluffy ball went one way instead of another way. You know what I mean? Like no one died, like there was no cost.
Yeah.
So even though it's not real life, quote unquote, in my case, I might be getting verbally abused or whatever it is. It's not going to affect my life, but it still affects my body. That's a thing.
Yeah.
So you still get a bodily reaction from these things. And I've talked about doing verbal sparring with my son before. And I talked to him about it yesterday. I said, look, do you want to try me yelling at you to, get that reaction from you, and you try to focus on your breathing? And he said, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. So for me, it's really important to understand your body, your own, just your physical reactions to all of this sort of stuff. I also want to share, I work with a lovely colleague, and a lot of stuff went down, which happened on the day that happened to be my birthday. And she came in the next morning at 7 a.m. with a bunch of flowers for me. And she said, oh,
Wow.
you deserve these after what happened yesterday. I hope this isn't emasculating for a man to get flowers. And I was like, no. I mean, I love flowers, firstly. And, you see every gardening show's, got a guy fronting it. And so to me, it's there's nothing wrong with that at all. And I said, you should see my Duna cover. That's it's like a pink girls one. I just use that at work.
That's not the Canterbury Bulldogs one, is it?
But anyway, I just thought that was really lovely of her to do that, completely of her own volition. And it was really supportive. She's also the very first listener of our show. She was the one that got a sneak preview just to get some feedback on it. So she's a great supporter of our show. I won't mention her name because I haven't got that permission, but she knows who she is. So thank you so much for those flowers.
That's a really nice gesture. And isn't it funny, not funny, I guess. It's just, isn't it something that straight away it's like, I hope it's not, being a male getting flowers, I hope it's not a problem. Look, it's not something that I'd go and buy mates, but for me, it's a gesture. Like, it's not about what it is,
Exactly.
It's the thought behind it.
Absolutely. It was so nice.
I think that's amazing. So,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Going back to what I was saying about, things that happen in the workplace, I guess I want to stress, I don't want to trivialize that, something occurred, because whether it be, you got the lunch order wrong, or you did something that seemed insignificant when you really look at it. But at the time, it really does have an effect, like your experience. It's not going to have a massive effect but at some point that may come back, because it may just put a dent in your armor or a chink in your armor. Like just that little. And if you get too many of those, that's when and you don't get a chance to iron it out and straighten it out. That's when I guess people really have troubles and can really suffer. Whether it be a partner going through it or yourself going through it. It's really tough. And I want to also say it's really tough to be on the other end at home. So I don't know if like your partner coming home after a bad day or a bad experience, your kids. Now I know I'm probably talking to the wrong crowd here, but your kids coming home from school after having a rough day, kids coming home from somewhere, anywhere, like it's going to happen as they grow up, and it's really tough to sort of know how to navigate that. I mean, I don't know the answers to that. I'm just sort of putting it out there into the universe. Do you have any tips, or do you have any thoughts on how to, my thought is just be supportive as much as you can, but it's a really sort of tough one in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Just be supportive, and you've got to be supportive in the way that makes sense for the person. If you're really stressed out of your mind and you get home from work and I'm like, all right, Jarad, come on, let's go to, this play center. And you're like, mate, I don't do that sort of thing. That's not really being supportive, is it? I'm adding another layer of stress to your life. So to me, being supportive is just hearing the person. Just, don't say anything, no judgment or anything. Just, what happened at work, let's talk about it, and just let them talk. Don't interrupt. Don't try to offer any solutions. Oh, have you tried punching your boss? None of that sort of stuff. Just sit there, just listen, and just be supportive.
I was going to say, like, offering solutions, or and I think again we've touched on this sort of stuff earlier. It's too early to offer solutions. Like, if someone's come home from work, closed the door, locked the door, walked in, put their bags down, whatever, and then, had told you about, look, I've had a rough day, don't try and make a solution right then, because I guarantee you they've thought about everything that you've thought about, and it's too raw. Just be supportive and hear what they're saying, and then, let them unload, unwind, whatever.
Yeah, I think unwind is a great word. You think of tension, something just winding up and becoming really, really tight. You've got to unwind it. Yeah. That could be anything from a shower to a beer for some people, a cup of tea in my case yesterday. But that's what you've got to do. Unwind, release that tension.
Yeah. Find that space for whatever space it is that you feel, or, if your partner is in the situation, find that space that that they'll relax. So whether it be that cup of tea, or for me, sometimes just having a shower, it sort of cleanses the day. You're like, oh, I don't usually have a shower for another couple of hours, but sometimes it's just a matter of just I just want to get that day off me.
Exactly. That's it.
It's a thing. So it's quite literally a cleansing.
Yeah. But, Jarad, I just want to look at the flip side of this as a co-worker, a colleague. You just think about the power we've got to create a good workplace for our colleagues and friends, really. I'd like to consider them friends. I mean, everyone at my workplace is my friend. I've got some sort of personal relationship with everybody. So I just want people to be aware of the power you've got to create a better environment for everybody, for people to want to come to work. To be part of a team that, you want to play for, to be a captain that people want to play for if you're a manager.
I actually don't even think that's a manager's role completely as well. I think management have that role, of course, but I think, like you said, as a co-worker, as somebody who's on the same level, I think my initial thought is it comes back to maybe karma. So whatever you put out into the world, hopefully you'll get back,
Yeah.
So if you're in a workspace and there's 10 people there, and out of those 10 people, there might be 2 or 3 that you have a real connection with. And then there's 7. Yeah, they're okay. Then they're, you talk to them, they're pleasant. But if you go in there and shut situations down and don't want to experience things with those people, then you're going to miss out. And that's also going to come back, on you later. If you are having a rough trot, those 7 people won't be that, interested in your problems. But if you go in there and, create a really nice space by just being, a nice person and helping and whatever you can within your scope.
Yeah.
I think that will bode well for you in the future, bode well for you currently, in the present, that, you can turn up to a nice workspace. You don't have to really, live in each other's pockets, but, you're spending 8 hours minimum with these people during the day. You've all got something to do, but you will cross paths, and it's always nice to say hello and speak and help out and then when you need help and all, it's all give and take, so majority of the workspaces are pretty good. Let's be honest. It's just, personality clashes and things like that can cause problems. But even if there is a personality clash, if you created a good environment, it can kind of be fixed up pretty quick before it becomes, a mountain. That's my thought on it anyway.
Yeah. Well, I hope people can see their contribution to the workplace or to any environment, really.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy, that everyone's like, oh God, I've got to work with him.
Yeah.
You want to be the guy that people say, oh, awesome. I'm on with Jarad. That's what everyone wants. Surely.
Yeah, that's right. And I guess it's important to know that not everyone's going to respond perfectly, but I'm happy with, awesome. That's Jarad. I'm going to work with Jarad, but I'm also happy with, that guy's all right.
Sure.
I'll take that,
Yeah.
I guess I don't want to be that, like you said, we don't want to be that, oh my goodness, this, we've got to work with this bloke, he's such a dinosaur, or he's such a this, or he's set in his ways, or, whatever. But, you just hope that yeah, like I said, I'll take he's all right, but that's good. That's positive in my thought.
Yeah. Well, how can you avoid being that guy, that the drag? I mean, to me, it's about obviously you've got to do your job well, have a good
Yeah,
work ethic. But on
yeah,
top of that, I mean, I don't want to just work with someone who's really good at their job and, he's just mumbles all the time and, is complaining about stuff. So to me, I want to work with someone who's bright and positive, easy to talk to, happy to share a part of themselves as well. I know that sounds unprofessional, but, it is nice to
yeah,
ask someone, oh, so what'd you get up to on the weekend? And for them to just
yeah,
not say, that's private. I'd rather not discuss that.
yeah, yeah. That kind of kills the conversation, doesn't it? I guess there's two parts of that is, the personal and the professional side of it. So what you give personally is, if you give a little bit, that's okay. And I think that's kind of not accept, what's the word? That is kind of being human,
Yes.
just being
Yeah.
human, I can't think of the word actually, but just being a nice person. There's some jobs, and I want to recognize there's some jobs that are quite competitive. I mean, me and you are not in that world,
Yep.
and the cutthroat world as such. If there's somebody that does their job good that works with us, that's awesome. That's a really good thing, right?
Yep.
But if you're in a cutthroat sort of competitive environment, if the person next to you is doing a really amazing job, you actually think, oh, I'm falling behind here. I could lose my job, or
That's a
I
really
could,
good point, Jarad.
this person, the competitiveness comes out, and it's not about winning. It's about keeping your job, or it's about looking good, or getting the best. Again, I've never worked in this, so I'm going to sound really naive, but getting the best, sales, record for the month or whatever it might be. We don't work in that, so I want to recognize that. So we're two guys here talking about it, but I haven't experienced that part of my professional life,
Yep.
and I'm not planning on it. That's not my plans, but so hopefully we sort of resonate to some people or all people, but yeah, we definitely can't talk for that really super competitive world.
Yep. And I can imagine how stressful that would be, just showing up to work regardless of how supportive it would be, to have to perform in that sense.
Yeah, it's and winner takes all.
Yep.
And then how do you not bring that into your, that again, how do you turn that off? Because if winner takes all, that means your phone has to be on 24 hours a day. You might be taking phone calls from overseas. So people are, and that touches on the whole thing. A lot of people are working from home now. So there's no separation from office and work and home. Like there's some people are doing it in their dining room, and their kids are right next to them and whatever. And so how do you sort of put that line down that, hey, I'm not working now? A lot of people have their computer on now 24 hours a day. Like people say working from home was going to affect their business, but you'd find sometimes it's the other way around. Like businesses are actually getting better output from their employees because they're not turning off, which is unhealthy in my opinion.
Yeah, that's right.
But
I agree.
you haven't got that safe spot anymore. You haven't got that drive over the bridge, thing.
I was actually thinking the exact same thing. I was thinking of you with you crossing your bridge into your suburb. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's a really tough one that I think it's only relatively new. Like, I mean, people have been working from home and for a very long time, but what our situation the last 2 years has brought us to, like, majority of people are working from home now. Like I think you find there's a lot of people absolutely can't wait to get back in the office. Like, they can then separate family life, home life, and work life.
Yeah. Jarad, you and I, we work in particular industries where it's all about caring for other people.
Mm-hmm.
I was talking to a friend who works in an industry where it is about output, like you said. And the problem with that is it's not about doing more. It's about making sure that people don't do too much. Now, this is a different kind of stress. where
Yeah.
he's being shackled because he's too good at his job and it makes other
Yeah.
people look bad. Now, the environment in this workplace, I'm not going to mention who it is because I don't want to give away too much, but the environment in this workplace has become quite toxic because of that.
Mm.
It's about people, basically taking care of the old boys and not basically doing the best job that they can. And he's an outsider because of his intelligence and skill. That's another sort of toxic environment that a lot of people don't talk about. But it's really important that people can work to their full potential without shackles, I think.
So yeah, look, you'd find that's pretty common. Look after the old boys, look after the ones who've been there for a while. Just take it easy. But that's hard. How do you as a that you can do this work and you've got like an unwritten rule that you can't do that because that's his role or his job. You can do that, but so he's getting hatred, not hatred, but negative sort of thoughts towards him because he's doing his job. Like that's,
yep.
How do you process that? I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't know. Like I said earlier, like we get somebody in our roles that does a really good job. That's amazing because the care goes up, and that's a bonus, right? But yeah, the thought and the confusion, I think, that's probably what I'm having trouble saying. Yeah. The confusion of not being able to produce what you can produce because, it's this unwritten rule.
I think it's actually really unethical on so many levels. Firstly, for him to not let a person work to their full ability. And secondly, it's bad for the entire country. Our whole economy, our economic output is slowed because people want to have a certain cap to make it look like this is as much as we can do. It's unfortunate.
It is. And I guess that's the battle with the work-life balance. I mean, trying to find that place where you're in your happy place for both spaces, like you're very lucky if you get that.
And to look at it in a bigger picture, it means that you can't be yourself. Essentially, it's another place where you can't live to your full potential. Yeah. And that's the worst part, really. Just feeling suffocated in some way, that your spirit can't be what it's meant to be.
Correct. That's sort of partly what I was thinking when I was trying to talk earlier, that, you cannot be yourself. You just, you like I said, you're shackled to be another number in that company or whatever it is that you're working.
Yeah. Well, for all our listeners out there, I hope you haven't had a rough day at the office. I hope if you're listening to this on the way to work, that you're about to have the best day you've ever had. Just know that we're behind you and that we understand all the processes that everybody has to go through, and we're here for each other. So if you ever need anything, drop us a line here at The Two Gentlemen. Hit us up on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and our private contacts if you've got your hands on them.
Yep, really good to hear from everybody, and stay positive. And like I said, karma, be nice.
Yeah. Look, thanks so much, Jarad. I feel like this has been part of the process for me, having a chat with you about this. We had a little, we messaged each other yesterday about scheduling this podcast, and I told you I had a rough day, and you were like, yeah, you want to hear all about it. So that's really nice of you, Jarad, and thanks for being a great friend.
Not a problem, mate. Take it easy.